My son drained my bank account and took his wife and her mother to Rome. I just smiled to myself, and 3 days later he called me sobbing. Mom, what did you do? My retribution was complete. The day I needed to breathe the most was the very day my son took every single dollar, without even leaving a note. Eleanor Ellie Price froze for a long time. She sat on her old worn cloth armchair, the same one she bought when Jackson turned 7, using the first decent paycheck she earned cleaning homes in the Hollywood Hills. In front of her, the cell phone screen glowed with a notification that chilled her blood. Available balance, $0. She read it again and again, and a fourth time. Her hands trembled, not from old age, though she was 68 years strong, but from something deeper, a sickening knot that forms when the soul understands, but the heart refuses to accept. She called the bank. A robot answered. Then a human representative tried to ask questions. They told her the movements had been made online, wire transfers for large amounts totaling over $80,000. It was her entire life's work, her savings, her security, her only safety net. And where did the money go? She asked, her voice broken, as if she knew the answer, but needed to hear it from someone else. It was all transferred to an account in the name of Jackson Arthur Price. Ma'am, the executive replied indifferently. Do you want to file a fraud report? Ellie didn't respond. She hung up without saying a word. Silence filled the house. The only sounds were the ticking of the clock in the kitchen and the buzz of a dying fluorescent light bulb. Outside, the ice cream truck played its familiar tune, oblivious to the abyss that had just opened inside her. Then the landline rang, the old phone she kept out of habit. Hello, she said, her voice flat. Ellie. Honey, did you see your Jackson's Instagram? It was the excited voice of Doris, her longtime neighbor. He's in Rome, child, eating fancy food with his wife and mother-in-law. Lord, what a life they live. They look like movie stars. Ellie swallowed hard. Her soul seemed to leave her body for an instant. She walked slowly to her room, opened the drawer where she kept her old smartphone, and searched for her son's profile. She wasn't big on social media, but she followed him from a distance, like someone peering through a window at a life that no longer belonged to them. There he was, Jackson, her only son, the boy she brought into the world with pain and raised alone since his father left her for another woman. The same son she gave everything to, even the family land her parents left her so he could go to college. He was smiling, a glass in hand, dressed in a crisp white shirt, embracing Tanya, his wife, and Rhonda, the mother-in-law who always looked down her nose at Ellie. The photo caption read, Rome, my new beginning. I deserve this. And in the comments, Tanya had written, good things come to those who wait. Thanks for everything, mama-in-law. With a money emoji. Ellie didn't cry. She didn't scream or break anything. She just stood there, holding the phone like a burning brick. Then, without anyone to notice, she smiled. But it was a different kind of smile, as if she finally understood something she had avoided seeing for years. Far away, under a cloudy sky and among the cobblestone streets of Rome, Jackson raised his glass without guilt. See, Tanya said, sipping expensive wine. It was a good idea to take the money. She's going to die soon anyway. Better we use it before it goes to medical bills. Rhonda, her mother, let out a harsh laugh. Clueless old lady. She doesn't even know what a plane is. She was never going to do anything useful with that cash. Jackson didn't say anything. He looked at the Colosseum with shining eyes. But something was churning inside him, but he kept quiet, just as he had learned to do since he was a boy and was hungry. And his mother would tell him, "Hold on, baby. We'll have it tomorrow." The walls of Ellie's house seemed older that night. Everything was in its place, but nothing felt the same. On the shelf were photos of Jackson, small, in preschool, in his first middle school uniform, the day he received his college diploma. Everything she had done, she did for him. At 18, she sold her engagement ring to pay for his high school. At 23, she gave him the family land her daddy left her. At 30, she helped with the wedding expenses, even though Tanya never cared for her. Ellie cooked for him, washed his clothes, and cleaned up after him. And he only drifted further away. "Mom, you don't understand this world," he'd say dismissively. "Things aren't done like they used to be. Tanya and I have big plans, and son, I'm part of those plans. You'll always be in my heart, Mama, but you can't be tied to me for life." A week before discovering the betrayal, Ellie had tried to visit Jackson at his apartment in Studio City. She brought a tray of her famous fried chicken and collard greens that she made herself. She rang the bell. No one opened the door. She waited under the sun, sitting on a bench for 2 hours until the doorman approached her. "Are you looking for Mr. Jackson Price?" "Yes, I'm his mother." "Ah, well, I was instructed not to let you in if you come unannounced." Ellie swallowed. "And why is that?" "I couldn't tell you, ma'am. But that's what they told me." She walked back home. She didn't take the metro bus. She wanted the air to hit her face, even if it was hot and dirty. She thought of every meal she denied herself, every dawn she worked overtime, every penny she saved for her son. That same night, Doris came to visit. She brought pecan pie and coffee. "You've always been strong, Ellie. Don't let this break your heart. Jackson is young. Maybe he'll come to his senses." Ellie sighed, her gaze distant. "Do you think children ever regret it, Doris?" "Yes, of course they do. When their mother isn't around, they realize everything." "Well, I hope it's not too late when he realizes." "And what are you going to do?" Ellie looked up. In her eyes was something different, something that hadn't been there before. "I'm going to smile just like they taught me." Doris frowned. "Smile? What do you mean?" "I've cried enough, Doris. Now I'm going to smile in silence because I have nothing left to lose." And when a woman has nothing left to lose, she becomes dangerous. Meanwhile, night was falling in Rome. Jackson was stepping out of the shower when he heard Tanya's voice on the balcony speaking on the phone. "Yes, we did it. The old lady never even knew. The money's here. Tomorrow we open the account in Spain and we get rid of Jackson." "Yes, of course. He thinks we're in this together. Such a fool." Jackson stopped. He didn't move. He felt the water freeze on his skin. He didn't say anything. He went back to the room as if he hadn't heard a thing. He lay down next to Tanya, who pretended to be asleep. He closed his eyes, but something had changed, and he didn't know yet that the worst was coming. Back in South Central Los Angeles, Ellie was preparing a cup of chamomile tea. The night was thick. The street lights flickered. Outside, dogs fought over a trash bag. Inside, she picked up her notebook, the one she used to jot down recipes she never got to cook. She wrote something with her shaky handwriting. "This is not the end. It is the beginning of my silence, and my silence will hurt more than any scream." Then she closed the notebook, lay down in bed, and for the first time in a long time, she slept without tears. And while she slept in her humble home, her son in a hotel suite in Rome checked his phone. He found a bank notification. Account blocked due to suspicious activity. "What?" he muttered, staring at the screen. The first crack had just formed. And Jackson didn't know that his mother, in silence, had already begun to move. Sometimes pain doesn't scream. Sometimes pain sits, observes, and waits for the right moment. And that moment was just beginning. The night hadn't entirely left South Central. There was still that sticky humidity between the tin roofs and the broken sidewalks. Ellie got up at dawn, her bones creaking as they did every day. But this time, she didn't feel old. One Sunday during a family lunch organized by Tanya, Ellie decided to speak to her son. She waited for the moment Rhonda went to the restroom and Tanya was distracted by her phone. She looked at Jackson with the same love as always, but her voice no longer trembled. "Son, are you sure this woman is right for you? Have you noticed how she looks at you when you're not looking? How she talks about me?" Jackson swallowed. Tanya looked up from her phone. Rhonda had just come out of the restroom. The atmosphere shifted like when a storm rolls in. And then Jackson exploded. "That's enough. Mom, you're jealous because I have another woman in my life now. You won't say it, but you think it. You never stood for anyone else being important to me." Ellie didn't defend herself. She didn't even flinch. She just lowered her gaze to her plate, put down her fork, and in that silence, she knew she had lost him. When they said goodbye that afternoon, no one hugged her. Upon arriving home, she carefully took off her shoes as if she didn't want to bother anyone, even though she was alone. She sat on her bed and thought about the last time her son had said, "I love you," without her asking him to. She couldn't remember. The following weeks were a hell disguised as routine. Tanya and Rhonda began to visit Jackson more at his office. They brought him lunch, talked business, and suggested investments. One day, Tanya asked for access to his account so she could better organize household expenses. "Trust me," she said, taking off her shirt in front of him. "Or are we not a team?" Jackson, trapped between lust and foolishness, said yes as always. Ellie, meanwhile, didn't stay still. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't know how to prove it. That's when she reached out to her neighbor, Brenda, a woman who had been an accountant for 20 years at a pharmaceutical company and was now retired, teaching neighborhood children to add and subtract. "Brenda, I need you to explain something to me. How can I tell if someone is messing with my accounts?" Brenda frowned. "Your son?" "Yes." "Do you have access to your bank statements?" "They don't come to me anymore." "And transfers?" "I've never made one. I don't even know how to do that." For several nights, Brenda taught Ellie how to access the bank portal on her cell phone, how to review movements, and how to identify deposits and withdrawals. The first time she saw the list of transactions, Ellie felt the world falling on her. Large amounts, recent dates, transfers that coincided with the days Jackson visited or asked for some document. Money leaving without explanation. He had access. He asked me for it to do some paperwork. He said it was for insurance. Ellie, it's not paperwork. It's theft. Her heart broke in two, but she didn't cry. Instead, she asked for a notebook and began writing down every single transaction, day, time, amount. Every dollar stolen had a name attached to it. One Friday night, when everything seemed lost, Brenda showed her something else. See this transaction? They signed your name here to activate a joint account, but the signature isn't yours. It's a crude copy. Ellie touched the screen as if touching an open wound. They didn't even bother to hide it. Music, what are you going to do? Ellie closed her phone, took a deep breath, and said, nothing. Not yet. Meanwhile, in Rome, Jackson began to feel uneasy. Not from guilt, but because Tanya no longer looked at him the same way. She had changed. She no longer kissed him with enthusiasm. She spent hours on her phone, laughing to herself. And Rhonda no longer bothered to pretend she tolerated him. One night, he heard a conversation between them while pretending to sleep. It's done. Why keep pretending? As soon as we get back, we're selling everything and ditching him. And if he finds out, he's slow. He won't even notice. And if he does, so what? The old lady is going to die anyway. Who is going to defend him? Ellie from Los Angeles began to move with precision. She visited a bank office, requested the complete statements, printed them, and put them in envelopes. Then she went to the public registry to ask if there were properties under her name that she didn't remember signing. There she. Not a single tear, not a single question. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This is where we part ways. Mom, he tried to say, but his voice broke. I gave you everything I had, even my silence. Now I give you the only thing you refuse to accept, the truth. Will you forgive me? I already forgave you. The problem is that you haven't forgiven yourself yet. Can I do anything? Yes. Live with what you did. And make it count for something. Ellie turned and walked away slowly. She never saw him again. That night, Jackson opened the envelope in his room. The photos were yellowed but intact. The letter written in blue ink smelled of lavender. When he finished reading it, the world crashed down on him. He knelt on the floor and cried as he hadn't cried since he was a child. Not from punishment, but from shame. And he knew he had lost something he couldn't recover. The dignity of a mother. And that justice, when it comes from the one who loved you most, is the hardest of all. Jackson returned to the U.S. in silence, without suitcases, without promises, without glory. He passed through customs like a ghost. No cameras, no family waiting for him, no one asking about him. The only things he brought with him were the yellow envelope with his childhood photos and the letter his mother had left him. The rest, he had lost everything. The Los Angeles airport felt grayer than ever. The air was heavy, dense, as if his guilt floated in the atmosphere. He had nowhere to go. Tanya wasn't answering calls. His mother-in-law had blocked all his contacts, and his former office colleagues pretended not to recognize him. He had been exposed on social media, mocked by thousands. Branded as the ungrateful son who stole from his mother to take his wife and mother-in-law to Europe. He walked the streets of the neighborhood where he grew up. South Central was the same. The same potholes, the same graffiti on the walls, the same street vendors selling goods at dusk. But something inside him was no longer the same. Every street had an echo, a memory, a reproach. He passed his old school. He remembered when his mother walked him hand in hand, her apron smelling of bleach and her shoes worn down. She always said, "You won't live scrubbing floors like me. You'll have your own desk and your suit." And he had it for a while until he exchanged it for lies. Ellie was already back. She had returned alone. She didn't need company. She had lived her whole life in the company of her silence, and it didn't weigh on her. She settled back into her house with cracks in the walls, the same concrete floor, and the rocking chair that creaked when she swayed. She settled into her life like someone returning to the place they should never have left. Walter brought her medicine. Brenda prepared light soups for her. The closest neighbors looked after her in spontaneous shifts. Not because she asked for it, but because dignity is also honored while one is alive. She became a neighborhood legend. Some children thought she had traveled to punish the wicked, others that she was a witch, others that she had faced the mob. Only a few knew the truth, and they said nothing. Ellie didn't speak much. She listened to blues music in the afternoons. Sometimes from the doorway she watched the neighborhood children play. She laughed with them. She gave them lollipops, listening intently when they told childhood lies. She had recovered her peace, but not her strength. The cancer was advancing. Slowly but steadily. Every week she seemed more fragile. Her clothes were too big. Her hands trembled more. But she never stopped walking around her house. She never let herself fall. One Sunday morning, Jackson walked to the door. He carried a bag with donuts. He had spent the whole night wondering if he should go. He hadn't slept or eaten, but something inside him demanded it. He didn't expect her to open the door. He just wanted to see her, to see if she was still breathing. From the opposite sidewalk, he saw her sitting in her rocking chair. She wore an old sweater and a shawl draped over her shoulders. Her face was thin but not defeated. She smiled at some children playing nearby. One of them brought her a flower picked from the park and she hugged him as if he were her own blood. Jackson didn't cross the street. He just watched her. He felt a knot in his throat, walked slowly, left the bag of donuts on the porch, and left. Ellie didn't look up. But she felt him. She didn't open the door. Not that day. Over the following weeks, Jackson returned, always at the same time. He left something. Flowers. Pastries, a note without a name. He never dared to knock. He never asked to enter. He had no right. He was just paying without knowing if the debt would ever end. One night, Ellie picked up her red notebook, opened it to the last page, and with a trembling hand, wrote her final note. It wasn't long, just enough. Just like her. My son, love is not demanded, it is given. And if you have learned that, then you are not lost anymore. Don't look for me when I'm gone. I will be in every mistake you choose not to repeat. In every act of kindness you do without expecting anything in return, if you want to forgive yourself, start with others. And if you ever manage to see your mother in the eyes of another woman, don't fail her. That will be my redemption. She signed with her full name. She folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and wrote in black ink, for Jackson. The morning she stopped breathing was bright. The sun streamed through the windows. On her lap were the red notebook, the envelope, and a blanket knitted by her own hands. The neighbors found her surrounded by flowers that the children had left. Her face held a serenity that few can fake. There was no drama, no screaming, only the calm after the storm. Walter arrived first. He looked at her in silence, gently closed her eyes. He didn't cry. He knew she didn't want tears. He knew she had died as she lived with dignity. Brenda prepared the wake, with the help of the neighbors. It was humble but full of love. They didn't accept elaborate wreaths, only flowers from the park, children's drawings, and the songs she loved to listen to. Jackson wasn't notified, but he knew. He knew the moment the wind changed and something in his chest went out. He ran to the house, saw the open door, and walked in slowly. There were candles in the living room. No one stopped him. No one hugged him. He went to his mother's body. He knelt down. He touched her hands. They were cold. Next to her, he found the envelope with his name. He opened it. He read every word aloud. Alone in a whisper. He cried, but not like before. He cried in silence like her. In a corner of the room was an open wooden box. Inside a photo of him as a child with a handwritten note on the back. I still believe in you, son. Jackson took the photo, pressed it against his chest, then went out to the yard, and sat in the chair where she used to sit. He looked up at the sky and understood that he had lost his mother. But perhaps he could still find himself. Days later, the neighbor said that the man who came with donuts stayed living in the house. He had no new furniture or luxuries, no visitors, only an old chair, a red notebook, and a photo on the shelf. Those who leave make space. Those who stay sometimes fill it with memory and sometimes with redemption. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.